Thank you for your attendance today. My review of the table indicates that we have a quorum, and we will now call the meeting to order. The first item before you is the approval of the agenda for this meeting, May 21st. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda.
And I second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any need for discussion? Additions, deletions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion carries. The first order of business, we've been working on this for months now, the development of the community survey. Emily has some slides, and we have some questions, but we've sent this out to you. We've asked each committee to review their questions, and if they have any potential edits to the document, we'd like to have them now. And if not, we are prepared to entertain a motion to act upon the survey. If you note, we took particular care at trying to consolidate some of your questions. So we streamlined it. We tried to make sure that the questions that we asked the public were targeted at what our charge is as a committee, the resolution, what we're expected to do, how we're to move forward with recommendations. And we were also very concerned about the quality and the process of compiling the results, because we did not want to create something that became a monster to determine if in fact, what the outcomes were from the survey. And so we have something that we believe is programmable and something that will allow us to move forward and meet our obligation of getting public input. Let me just say that we believe that this will be our most dominant public input because even with our efforts in afternoon and evening meetings, we have not been as fruitful as we would have liked. But we believe that we will get significant return from this. And we've identified a number of means of distributing it. Are there any questions or any comments?
I have a question. Have you an estimate of how long it would take an average parent to complete this?
So, Emily Shreves, staff liaison. I believe that it's kind of up to the individual to decide how long they want to spend with the survey, because most of the questions that are required to be answered are selecting based on a scale or yes or no. From there, you can optionally type more information should you have any or choose to. So this way we get quantitative data, but optional qualitative data.
In addition to that, we were concerned about readability. And so we put a great deal of care into making sure that we used language that would be similar to what the Washington Post is.
Mr. Chair,
Mm-hmm.
may I ask, so on the questions, starting at the beginning, questions 1, 2, and 3, well, I guess not so much 1, but 2 and 3 require, I guess, the user or the person filling out the survey to select whether, for instance, question 2, whether a parent, student, teacher, but it's possible that somebody is both a teacher and a parent, or an administrator, parent, or something, some variation of that, and the committee's work may vary as to where that information is coming from. Likewise, parents with children in multiple schools, fairly common.
And we would expect multiple answers to each of those.
Okay, is that going to be laid out? Is there going to be like a preamble or something to let them know to fill out multiple surveys?
Not
Or-
multiple surveys, but
They'll just be able
circle
to choose
multiple answers.
More than one
Yeah,
answer.
they can choose more than one
As
answer.
in, check all that apply.
So on here, there is a parenthetical that says drop down. Normally on the drop down menus, you make one selection. So I don't know if that needs to be changed then to some sort of checkbox or something.
Yeah.
So I just specified and made an edit to have it be a multi-select, and Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, that's a possibility with,
Yes.
yes, okay.
Yes.
So we will change that with the current draft before you to make that a multi-select, both of those questions. Thank you.
Any other feedback?
I just want to add, I know we were kind of looking at timelines. The Calvert County Public Schools has put out their end-of-year community parent survey. So we certainly don't want to overlap or send this out too quickly after that. So I think we do have a little bit of a bigger window if we do need to discuss any of these things a little bit longer. Just because we don't want to inundate with too many surveys at one time. People are going to pick one or the other, I feel. So just making sure we keep that in mind as well.
With the amendments that have been shared, what is your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve the survey with the amendments recommended today, and that the team and staff go forward with sending this out to the community.
Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any need for further discussion? There being none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed have the same option. The motion carries. Thank you. Staff will follow through with the recommended changes, and we will proceed. We have reached the point in our agenda where we are at new business. And today we are going to hear from members of, a couple of members of our committee who are in law enforcement, and from their counterpart in the public school system, Mr. Titus. And so we'd ask that they come forward and share as they deem appropriate.
I'm good. Thank you. My name is Cameron Hunt. I'm the detective sergeant at the state police here in Prince Frederick. I'm not sure who is aware, but the juvenile laws have changed back in June of 2022. They changed where children under the age of 10 years old cannot be charged with a crime. Children from 10 to 12 can only be charged with a crime of violence. Crimes of violence being a more serious felony crimes. One thing to note is that a second-degree assault, maybe like a pushing or someone gets punched, is not a crime of violence. So if a 12-year-old strikes someone and it's a second-degree assault, that child will not be charged. There's a few other options that we have, but they will not be criminally charged. Children 13 and older, they can be charged with any types of crimes, and juveniles of any age cannot be interviewed by law enforcement without consulting with an attorney first. So some of our stats have changed from this. I will go over just a few stats here in the end. Within the state police, we have no participation with the school resource officers. The sheriff's office has a MOU where they handle all the SRO services within the school. That doesn't mean that the state police can't handle any kind of issue that would arrive within the school system, whether it be a call for service, just say maybe if there's a fight on a school bus, if it's a 911 call, and if the state police are the first on scene, we will handle that call. Most likely I'll get up with Mr. Titus and Sergeant Woodford, and I will share that information of what comes out of that. We do a lot of mental health with juveniles as well, and we do get calls for service where it's just non-criminal in nature, like I said, maybe like a runaway, things of that nature. We get complaints that will respond to the barrack. If it is something that happens in the school, we'll also handle that. I'll usually get up with Sergeant Woodford first to make sure that incident was not already handled, and if it wasn't, we would take the report and investigate anything that should came out from that. And we also deal with juveniles from traffic stops as well. As far as our arrest, most of them are criminal in nature. When it says traffic up there, that doesn't mean like speeding citations and things like that. That's more of the serious traffic. We're talking like suspended licenses and DUIs. So as far as the stats are concerned, we have 28, and this is from, April of 2023 to April of 2025 stats, just for the state police. We had 23 juvenile criminal arrests, 15 traffic arrests, and 5 other. And breaking that down into demographics, it's what you would expect to see. Starting from 10 to age 17, it'll increase as you go up. With the age 16 and 17, again, unfortunately, we are seeing some juveniles being arrested for DUIs and impaired driving, so I think that's why that number does go up as well. So it's not all criminal arrests, but that's our different ages and in our stats for those 2 years. With sex and race, it's about halfway between male and female. Male is 21 arrests compared to female with 21 arrests. As far as race, white is being a 27 arrest, black 15, Hispanic 4, Asian 1, and 2 unknowns. So that's pretty much our arrest data on, I think we had 49 juvenile arrests within those 2 years. Just a quick case example. If we have a 14-year-old charged with a juvenile assault, we'll do what's called a Form 53. I think it's also referred to as a youth report, where they are charged on just a piece of paper. They can't be detained for over 6 hours. They are released back to their parent, and that Form 53 or youth report gets forwarded to the Department of Juvenile Services. From there, most likely, if that case is a felony case, it'll be reviewed by the state's attorney's office. Or if that child is on probation, or if that child has been seen numerous times, that will go in front of the state's attorney's office. If it is a one-time offender for a misdemeanor, that case will usually stay within the Department of Juvenile Services, and they'll handle that more with resources and supervision and things of that nature. If that juvenile is charged as an adult, or it stays with the state attorney's office, that will be handled in court. There's a new thing that's come up called SINS. It's Child in Need of Supervision. We've only done this a few times. It's where maybe like a juvenile is under the age of being charged, or they just could not be charged. I think we handled an incident in the school where 1 or 2 kids were charged, but we referred the other 2 to SINS just because they weren't able to be charged. So that's where they'll go strictly with the Department of Juvenile Services, and they'll get resources, but they'll also be under like not as strict supervision with DJS, just to kind of keep DJS involved with those youths. And I think that's everything from me. Is there any questions at all for the state police side of it?
If there is an injury, or worst case, a death that's caused by a child under 10, what happens?
Unfortunately, fortunately, we haven't had that at all. They cannot be charged. That would have to be referred to the state's attorney's office. We've had somewhere with the juvenile where we would have charged like first-degree assault when they were in between ages of like 10 and 12, which would get that child into DJS. Most likely would go into the state's attorney's office, but under 10 years old, losses we cannot charge on that.
Are there facilities for them at that age?
I don't know if Cheltenham would take in a juvenile under 10 years old.
No, most likely in those cases, the parents would be held liable in some
As a
set
guardian.
and be charged. The child would most likely, they could be institutionalized, but most likely be for mental health, if that's the case.
Right.
If that's, most likely the institutionalized would be mental health. If that's not a part, then I'm sure there would be somewhere for them to go, but like you said, Fortunately, we haven't had that, and hopefully we never have that. But that all stems from the state of Maryland, you know, thinking this is the best way to protect kids by not allowing law enforcement for these more serious cases.
Anything else?
All right, I'm Sergeant Woodford with the Calvert County Sheriff's Office. I'm one of the supervisors of our school resource officer program, and I'm doing the next part here, so let's get rolling. Oops. All right, just a brief history. We've had an MOU with the Board of Education since 2004. At that time, we had one officer dedicated to the schools. With positive results from that program, a few years later, we put one in each of the high schools. Because of needs and still more positive outcomes, we decided to add 3 to the middle schools, and it was a rotation. They have safety advocates in the middle school, so the safety advocates would be at one school one day, and the resource officer would be in the other school the next day, or the same day. So that there was either a safety advocate or a school resource officer in each middle school. And then they would handle any calls at the elementary schools. It was more of a call as needed basis, or stop in for major events and stuff like that. Then 2018, we had the Parkland shooting in Florida in February. I think there was 17 deaths in that, and then we had just right down the county below us in St. Mary's County, we had the Great Mills shooting about a month later, where the SRO was able to engage and dispatch the offender in that case. That brought a big community outcry. 2018-19, we started with 3 additional SROs. So now we had every high school covered and every middle school covered, and then those middle school guys would have their feeder schools, normally 2 elementary schools. Our current coverage, like I said, we have 1 in each of the high schools, 1 in each middle school, and then we have 5 dedicated to elementary schools, and 2 of those are contract deputies, which are retired from the sheriff's office, that are now contract deputies, and they both cover, one covers Calvert Elementary and the other one covers PAC down south. Let's see. The high school guys only cover their high school. Middle school guys would have the elementary schools close by. We have 1 at Sunderland and 1 at Mount Harmony, and then I split duties between Barstow and Mutual. All right, our duties as an SRO. We're the first line of defense of an active threat. It would be the worst day for Calvert County if anything ever happened like that, but we don't want any soft targets, so we do have an armed police officer, and we're trying to get 1 in every school, but we have a lot of our schools covered. We handle any police matter on school grounds, which includes school buses, school bus stops, and any school event that happens off campus. We assist school staff with arrivals and dismissals, make sure the students safely get into the building. And we assist with buses if there's an issue at that school, getting buses back on the road or anything like that. We do interior and exterior checks and walkthroughs. We have a presence in the hallways and lunchrooms, and we are a resource for instructions if the teachers need us to address a class on a certain topic. We're often in criminal justice classes in high schools. I do community helper programs in elementary schools. We're there to be a positive role model and to mentor students, build positive relationships with students, staff, and parents. We assist with students in crisis, determine in worst case scenarios if a child's in need and they're a harm to themselves or others. Sometimes we do an emergency petition, which is taking that child to the hospital to get mental health evaluation. We conduct check welfares of students and staff. If someone doesn't show up to school and we're worried about them, we will respond out to the residents and check on them to make sure they're okay. We counsel students and parents if there's an issue, a safety issue or behavior issue. We can talk to both of them. We investigate crimes and charge accordingly. We assist with threat investigations, and depending on how that investigation goes, sometimes we conduct residential threat assessments, which we go out to the house and talk to the parents and do a search of the residents. We handle school bus accidents, and we assist the PPWs with truancy cases and address verifications. We do receive a grant through Maryland Center of School Safety. This helps us, our 40-hour week is at the school, so we're there before and after school, so that's our 40 hours. Anything after that is normally overtime. And if you come to any school event, there's normally an SRO there. We cover everything from athletic events to the dances, concerts, plays, anything that the school's expecting a large crowd from the public, and they want us there, they'll either request us or we will be there. We'll also have graduations and project grads coming up, and we just completed senior prank coverage where we actually post up at the high schools to make sure the kids, the seniors are safe and don't do anything that gets them in trouble. So we are covering a lot of those events. What laws guide us? We follow Maryland criminal law, Maryland traffic law, and then COMAR, the Code of Maryland Regulations, covers what police can and can't do on school grounds. Laws are a little bit different on school grounds. So we have to be careful how we handle that. And then we also have to follow FERPA, which is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And that limits what we can do, what the schools can share with us as police. We have specific trainings. All of us have been through a 40 hours basic school resource training. We do yearly research that include all types of things, de-escalation, mental health, lots of different things. We all just went through that recently. All of our middle school guys are DARE certified. That's something that we have brought back under Sheriff Cox. So we do teach DARE in all of our middle schools, and we're sending, I think, 2 or 3 more additional SROs to DARE training. I think it's in September. So we're trying to, and we do DARE camp during the summer as well. That's run through our SRO program. And then we are, I believe all of us, if not most of us, are CIT trained, which is a crisis intervention training that helps SROs recognize mental health and substance abuse crises and teaches us different techniques of how to assist in those crises. SRO to school communication. So this is one of the things that I was asked to talk about. So we should have a good working relationship with our schools and administrations and be checking in with them daily. The Sheriff's Office shares our shift summaries so that we have 12-hour shifts. So at between 4 and 5, they're going to send the shift summary of all the major events that day. Several members of the Board of Education get that. Deputies are also supposed to be doing handle with care notifications. That way, if a child has a police contact, more than just a traffic stop or something like that. An example would be if the police responded for a domestic at a residence, the children were present, and one of the parents was was charged and taken out by the police. That would be something that would be covered by handle with care. It's pretty basic. We don't share all that information with the schools, but it lets them know that they did have a police contact and to keep an eye on that student and provide services the following day. Supervisors with the SRO unit, we meet with student services. I meet with Mr. Titus and Miss Cecilia Lewis. Very often we talk about cases in the past, what's coming up, and any concerns. Let's see, I meet monthly with Miss Lesby at the board to go over arrest data to make sure that everything that I have and she has lines up so we can report that to the state. Schools provide all the SROs, the schools are provided all the SROs' cell phone numbers and emails in case they need to get a hold of anybody. And if they can't get a hold of an SRO for whatever reason, they are to call a supervisor and we'll get somebody to them. The school to SRO communication. School administrators, counselors, social workers, etc. should have and maintain a good working, good communication with their SROs. Most schools include their SROs in school emails and calendars. Most SROs have a text thread with their school administrators, and schools share information on investigations, threats, students in crisis, and other incidents as they feel fit to make the SRO aware. SROs are all issued a school radio as well, so we can monitor the school activity and assist as needed. How SROs handle threats. Threats of violence come in through the SROs in many different ways. A student report it, staff report it, concerned parent. We have tip lines. through the main office, outside agencies, social media. There's lots of different ways that we receive some of these threats. We take them very serious and investigate them thoroughly. If discovered during the school day, the school normally takes the lead to complete the threat assessment. The exception would be if there's an immediate threat or we think there's a weapon in the building, then the SRO would bypass. There's laws in place to bypass, and we would take charge of that. Based on that threat assessment, the school would inform the SRO of their findings, and their SRO will then determine whether they make a phone call home or go out to the residents to do a residential threat assessment. The residential threat assessment, the SRO responds to the student's residence, and with cooperation from the parents, checks the residence for weapons. If weapons in the residence are located, they make sure that they're allowed to that the parents are allowed to possess those weapons, and to make sure that they're stored in a safe manner. The SROs will always inform the parents of Maryland law to store firearms where minors cannot gain access to them, and we include that in our report. The incident will be documented with a police report, and charges will be pursued in cases that meet the elements of a crime. The more serious threats and where we have enough evidence, we will do a search warrant. Other than that, they are consensual searches, so the parents can tell us no. Most of the time, I don't think I've ever had a parent just tell me no, but some of our guys have. But those more serious cases, we will have a search warrant, and they can't say no to that, and we'll conduct those searches. This was another topic that I was asked to talk about, our role in bullying cases. Bullying, unfortunately, does happen in the schools. Bullying is wrong, but is not illegal. Most bullying cases are handled at the school level. If the school student parent comes to the SRO for assistance, we will investigate and document with a police report. In most cases, there will be no crime. The few times we have charged, it's been cyberbullying, which is a crime, and most of these cases are social media based, and most of them happen outside of the school. That being said, we do always try to assist the families and do an investigation, take a report, and offer resources. Crimes where the school is the victim. Examples of this would be a theft, the destruction of property, disruption of school activities. How this kind of works, the school will complete their investigation and offer the student due process. The school will then decide whether to involve their SRO. With the school being the victim, they decide how much police involvement they want. If they want the charges pressed, if they just want the incident documented with a police report. The SRO will complete their own investigation, and with enough evidence, they will charge the student. Students can, just a side note, schools can issue discipline, and police can charge on the same incident. There's no double jeopardy or anything like that. Crimes where a person is the victim. Examples again would be theft. The big one here is assault, harassment. In most cases, the schools still conduct the investigation first and offer due process. After they are done, the victim or the victim's family, the school will refer them to the SRO, or they will have the SRO reach out to the family, and then we'll start our report then. And again, we conduct our own investigation, and the victim or the victim's family will decide whether that person will be charged or not. And they have a year and a day. In a case of an assault, they have a year and a day. So sometimes people will sit on it a little bit and see if things change, or if another incident's happened, then they'll go ahead and press charges. The school will have no say whether that person is charged or not. How are juveniles charged? I know First Sergeant Hunt kind of touched on this a little bit, but it is a youth report. It is just going out to the residents. We're not allowed to charge on school grounds or interview on school grounds. So we go out to the residents or a neutral location if the parents don't want us coming to the residence. Lots of times it's the sheriff's office or one of our district offices. We complete a youth report, and the parents sign it and take custody of their child. What happens next? Again, First Sergeant Hunt touched on this a little bit, but basically once it goes to DJS, most of those cases, the SRO is not involved. It is left in the hands of DJS at that point. Restrictions that SROs have, we can only assist on what we know about. If we know about the incident, then we can help. Comar and FERPA protect students from many police contacts and limit what police can do on school grounds. Lack of access to the school security system or surveillance system, and lack of access to e-school. Then Maryland laws, First Sergeant Hunt talked about this as well, the Juvenile Reform Act of 2022, and again in 2024 they even tightened up a little bit more. So again, kids under 10 can't be charged, and 10 to 12 only crimes of violence. And then again, children can't be questioned. We have to contact an attorney, even if they don't want to. We have to contact them, and 99% of the time that attorney is going to tell them not to talk to us. So those investigations normally, that questioning will not happen. I did list the crimes of violence. Like First Sergeant Hunt said, these are the more major crimes. So all these are listed. And then again, there are some other ones that are more sex offense based. I don't know if I added it or not. In 2024, they did add 3 more charges. And I think one's cruelty to animals and another's sex offense. I don't have it right on hand, but there was 3 other charges added in 2024. And they tightened up even more on the interviewing. So it's just some statistics from the schools. So this is the 2023-2024 schools. We had a total of 154 arrests. Now the state counts marijuana civil citations as arrest. So 62 of those 154 are civil citations. So those are just a student was caught with a THC vape, well, most likely a THC vape, and they're issued a civil citation, which they will have to go to court for. So just a breakdown of our high schools, 132 of those, 154 would have come from our high schools, 43 out of Calvert, 41 out of Patuxent, 29 out of Huntingtown, and 19 out of Northern. And then there was 20 combined with our middle schools, and then 2 others would have either been CTA, the Career and Technology Academy, or Calvert Country School. So the most common crimes that we're seeing is the marijuana vapes are a huge issue. The assaults, school disruption. We do get a little bit of alcohol, but the vapes have kind of taken over just because alcohol is not as easily concealed. And we have had some weapon violations. Most of those have been sharp-edged weapons. I think we've only had 1 firearm that was found on school property. It didn't make it into the school building. And then the other category, I just put others. That would be thefts, destruction of properties, a couple harassments, and maybe a sexual assault here and there. But our major ones are listed there. And then sex by gender the last 3 years. Males have dominantly have more, I don't know exact numbers. Looking at it, looks about like 85 in 2024 and just over 60 for the females. 2022, I think it was 111 or something like that, and the females is just over 40. So just a little breakdown there. I thought it had the numbers for you guys, so I apologize for that, but you can kind of see a roundabout. Arrest by race the last 3 years. So I have that broken down, white, black, multi-race, and Hispanic. It used to be more dominated by whites, and now we're kind of evening out, and we are seeing a little bit, Calvert County seeing the Hispanic population grow, so we have seen more last year and again this year. Just some highlights of things that SROs don't do. We do not do any types of scared straights. We have several parents that will come to us and want us to throw their kids in handcuffs or a jail cell. We would, in some cases, we would love to do that, but we are the good guys and we want those kids to have good relationships with us. So we will never do any kind of scared straight tactics with those children. We do not enforce code of conduct. That includes things like the dress code or cell phone policy. That is strictly a school thing. Those things are not illegal. We do not work for the school board or school system. We work with them through our MRU, but we are sheriff's office employees. So we have to work winter breaks and summer breaks. We do not search students or students' belongings without probable cause. The only exception would be a safety concern where we believe that someone has a weapon in the building. SROs cannot start school investigations. These need to be reported to the school for follow-through. School officials need much less than police to do interviews, take statements, and search students. So if there is something, we normally, if it's not a major thing, we normally refer people to contact their school administrators first to start those investigations. And we try not to physically restrain any students in any manner. This includes handcuffing. Out of 154 arrests last year, we only had 4 incidents where we had to handcuff a student, and 3 of those were by SROs. The other one was by a deputy at a football game. Goals for SRO unit is to grow our unit so we can cover more schools, keep students and staff and citizens safe, build positive relationships with students, staff, and parents. Another thing I hope to be doing is meeting with our SRO programs that are nearby to see what they do differently and how we can better our unit. Work with the Board of Ed to amend our current MOU that could allow us access to their surveillance video and to e-school, and continue training for tactical situations and assisting with mental health crises. And then any questions? Those statistics are actually on this website. It's a student arrest data collection, and it has a breakdown of about the last 10 years, and it has more than what I put in there. It will tell you if they had a 504, if they what their suspension was, all that stuff. It's all out there. That link will take you right there, and it has a ton of information on there. Some of our numbers are a little bit different, just because of the way they capture it and the way that the sheriff's office captured it, a little bit different. But any questions?
I do have one. As far as when you guys are determining if a student needs to be EP'd or things like that, are you guys able to contact the mental health mobile crisis to come to the schools, or are they not allowed on school property?
So they used not to, because the schools had a lot of the same resources that MCT has. So if the student is in crisis, the SRO can request MCT to come to the scene, only if they're in crisis.
Okay.
So for no follow-up care or anything like that, but if they're in crisis at that moment, that is an option for us to have MCT come to the school.
And that would have to be initiated by the SRO?
Yes.
Okay.
Follow-up question to that. How many EPs do you usually do on average in a year?
I don't have that number. I can get it for you, but I can tell you it's normally between 10 and 15 a year. And those are going to be the worst case scenario type things. Now, we might refer several others to MCT or to the crisis center at the health department, or follow-up care, whether it's lots of times with the younger ones, we'll refer them to Children's or Shepherd Pratt or some of these other institutions that are better fit for handling some of these younger kids with the mental illness. Anything else?
I didn't see any mention of hate crimes. Where does that fall? Is that under bullying, or is
No,
that criminal?
That would be criminal.
Right.
And I think besides the one incident at Calvert High a few years ago, unfortunately, some of it is protected by the First Amendment. Besides the one at Calvert High a few years ago, I don't think we've had any in the last couple of years.
I have a whole list, so I'll try to be real quick, I promise. Outside of having you do this really good presentation or reading all of Comar law, is there a place that outlines do's, don'ts, job description that people could reference?
Not really. A lot of it is in Comar, and there should be specifics for what police can do on and off school grounds. Now, we go over a lot of it in our training, but I don't know where.
It was extremely helpful. Just thought it would be nice that if staff were informed of what is and isn't the responsibility.
And that's the responsibility of the SROs to let them know, hey, I can't do this, or yes, I can do this. And sometimes, if we're not sure, we'll do it off school grounds. That way, we know we're not, pushing the limits on anything like that. Plus, we don't want to take kids out of instructional time, whether it's do an investigation. Most of our investigations are done after hours and at the child's residence.
You had said the bullying investigations, obviously most of those don't end up to be a crime. Do you still report that back to the school or to student services, or does it just end with the SRO investigation?
No, we are always gonna refer that to the school. They can do it much more. The parents can do bullying forms, and the school can do an investigation, issue discipline for bullying. If the parents want us to, we'll document it with the police report and do an investigation. But most of the time, there's not gonna be charges with it.
I'm not trying to grill you, I just had a
Okay.
bunch of questions. You had both mentioned about the 13th birthday. I know in Maryland, you've got a certain amount of time to file if something happens before that 13th birthday.
They would have to be 13
When it happened.
the day it happened.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then my last one, I know you're trying to cover more spaces. The question had come up at some point about chest packs and where that would fall, since that's school-sponsored field trips that happen there. If there were to ever to be, and God forbid, but hopefully there isn't, but if there ever to be an emergency that would require an SRO, do they call the school? Is there a contact? Is it to go through Mr. Titus at that point?
So we've had a couple incidents on field trips in the last couple of years, and the SRO of that school normally responds. If it is emergency, patrol will get there first, and then the SRO will handle the report and any follow-through. But that has not been brought up as a destination. Our goal is to get the buildings covered, so we have no soft targets. Those are our main goals, but I'm sure once we get to a point where we feel like we're in a good spot, I think that would be something we would look into.
Thanks, gentlemen, really appreciate it.
I have one question. You may have mentioned this, so I missed it. Is there any monitoring of social media? And if so, can you explain to what extent?
There is. I'd rather not say how we do that.
I understand.
But we do monitor, and we try to get as many handles as some of these guys and girls that we can, so we can look into things. But we are monitoring those things. But if there's ever any concerns, we encourage the public to let us know. That way, or screenshot something, whatever they need to do, so they can send it to us so we can do further investigation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? I just want to make sure I'm clear about something. The schools are responsible for bullying, but if you encounter such or complain of such, would it be included in your daily report that goes back to the school?
I'm gonna let the school know that somebody reported it to me, and they're gonna do the investigation. I'm not gonna just leave it open-ended. So the only problem is if they're not satisfied and think that the police should be involved, then they might come back to us.
Okay.
And at that point, we would do an investigation and document it,
Mm-hmm.
but 99% of the time, it's not gonna meet the elements of a crime, and we wouldn't
Mhm.
charge. But we're gonna make sure the school knows so they can do their part, because
Okay.
their part is gonna be a lot more involved than what we can do.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Titus?
Can you hear me? All right, good evening. My name's Larry Titus, and I'm with Calvert County Public Schools. I am the Community Resource and School Safety Specialist for the district. I've been there for about 14 years. Prior to that, I was with the Maryland State Police. I was what they call the School Liaison Officer, now known as School Resource Officer, which is the household word. My responsibilities with Calvert County Public Schools is I am the School Safety Coordinator as identified by the Maryland Center for School Safety. I oversee the crisis planning for the school district for each school as well as for the district. I also conduct training, professional developments as they relate to security. I oversee safety measures of the school, some of which are very obvious when you go onto one of our campuses, and some of them are not so obvious, which I won't talk about in this setting. I am also the hearing officer for disciplinary conferences when there are conferences, and I'll talk more about that in future slides about what that means. I oversee the Maryland Be Safe School line, the TIPS line, which is an anonymous line that anyone can call in and report concerning situations at our school districts. I also supervise the safety advocates, the school safety employees, which I will talk about in future slides, collect certain data as it relates to security. I oversee the CPR and AED situation in all of our schools, which all of our schools now are equipped with those devices for safety of students, staff, and visitors. I'm also the liaison for the district that works closely with Sergeant Woodford and the SROs, as well as other law enforcement agencies, now ICE, given the situation with that. I'm also the representative for for the Calvert County Emergency Operations Center, which I have the chair. If there is a stand-up of the Emergency Operations Center, as there is an incident at the nuclear power plant or some other national residential or statewide disaster, I take the position at the Emergency Operations Center for the school district. The Calvert County Public Schools jurisdiction lies as follows. While a student or someone, anything that happens on school property, including its campuses or offices, school bus stops with certain limitations. Those limitations are basically if the bus is there. Of course, we have no responsibility of what happened at a bus stop if there is no supervision, if there is no school staff or representation of the district there. So if the bus is there, we would take some jurisdiction at that point. Of course, the bus ride to and from school, we have jurisdiction over that, what happens on those buses. School-sponsored events, extracurricular activities such as school trips, anything that maybe happened at Mr. Oaks talked about at chess packs or some of those other locations that are auxiliary locations of the school, we do have jurisdiction there. Anyone that's participating or attending an extracurricular or co-curricular activity, we do have jurisdictions in those areas. Off school property, if an event or some type of activity or behavior that takes place that disrupts the school system or have the possibility or potential of disrupting the school learning environment, we may take some a jurisdiction at that point. Misconduct off of school property that is directed to one of our staff, we will address those issues. And of course, vandalism or destruction of property to school property or school buses or school vehicles that are, while they are being used for school business, we do have jurisdiction there. Our school safety team, and some of this will overlap with what you've already heard from Sergeant Woodford, and I won't waste your time with that. I'll move through those things. Our school safety team consists of 15 school safety advocates and of course 14 school resource officers. Our school safety advocates are 2 at each high school, 1 at each middle school, and 1 at our Career Technology Academy, which we call the CTA. Each of them are retired law enforcement officers, so you're getting Cadillac service for Volkswagen price. They're retired police officers. Many of them were supervisors when they're in their former career. They are certified each year by the Maryland Center for School Safety, including annual in-service both by the school district and the Maryland Center for School Safety. I won't bore you with what has already been covered, I think adequately by Sergeant Woodford. We do have the 14 resource officers and supervisor, which I work very closely with Sergeant Woodford on a daily basis. Sometimes we're too close. I call him at midnight. Yeah. These are the roles, and you may have seen this already. I know there have been previous presentations from others from the district. These are the roles of the safety advocates. Of course, they work with the administration with threat assessment, anything that may cause a threat to the school, as well as assist administration in maintaining a safe and orderly environment for school for students, staff, and visitors. They investigate and process reports of any type of crime or misbehavior, violations of our student code of conduct, serve as liaison with our resource officers, our police officers, and other departments as it relates to the school where they're assigned. They also conduct peer mediation among students that when they have conflicts, we have 16,000 students, we are almost destined to have some type of conflict between students. And they work with those students with peer mediation, try to resolve it at the lowest level. They encourage good parking for our staff, visitors, and students at our high schools. advise parents of safety matters that could be affecting that may be happening at school or may be happening in the community that may trickle over to the school. Again, they work with the resource officers that is assigned to that particular school. They counsel with students. They're not professional counselors or mental health professionals, but they do talk to students about safety, personal safety, and some of the things that fall under that category. They work with the community, resolve issues that may be detrimental to the effect of the academic environment of the school. They also work security at all of our extracurricular activities that are highly attended, such as football games, basketball games, those type of activities as needed. School role of resource officer, I think that was very adequately covered by Sergeant Woodford, so we'll just pass right by that. And I do thank Sergeant Woodford for that. We do investigate violations of our student code of conduct as well as disciplinary violations. However, the people that investigate those issues are administration of the building or administrator of that facility, our safety advocates. If it's a staff situation, that is handled by our human resources or a supervisor or director from the department, from the central office. Our school resource officers are involved with things that are deemed as crimes. Bear in mind that any type of violation of the student code of conduct could be considered crimes, but we're dealing with children. We like to think we have 16,000 students, not 16,000 criminals. So some of the things that could very easily be pushed to look like a crime, but we try to deal with it through a disciplinary issue. Of course, our Department of Social Services, Child Protective Services, by law, we are all mandatory reporters, so whenever there is a suspicion, and I use suspicion, of any type of child abuse or neglect, that is handled by the Department of Social Services. And what the school system will do is stand down until that investigation is completed and a decision is made by the Department of Social Services before we conduct an investigation. For my position, I also is the disciplinary hearing officer for the district. I represent the superintendent. If there is a infraction of our student code of conduct that may require an extension for 10 days or more or possible expulsion. And those hearings, attending that hearing is the administrator of the building where the child attends, the student that is accused or the accused that is named in that infraction, the parent or guardian of the student. If they can bring an advocate with them, they can bring an attorney, they can bring whomever they wish to bring with them, and others as required. Depends on the logistics and and what occurred in that situation. During that disciplinary hearing, the components are the case is prepared before they come. We want to know what exactly happened. There's an introduction that's done. The child's rights are protected as far as they are allowed to present any evidence as well as review any evidence of what caused them to be at that location, as well as they explain the appeal process if they disagree with what the decision is that's made. Then we go into the hearing. We talk about the incident that led to their suspension or their possible expulsion. We look at their disciplinary history. We look at their attendance, the academic history, and anything else that might need to be considered for us to draw a conclusion or make a decision of what will happen as a result of the hearing. We talk about possible consequences, and then we make a disposition of what will happen. Then in closure, we remind the parent again they can appeal that decision if they wish to do so, and documentation is distributed to all of the all needed parties. There are situations where times things, contraband or things are bought to on school property which should not be, that jeopardizes the safety of the school, as well as maybe a violation of the student code of conduct or federal or Maryland or federal law. Those people who can make searches are the principal of the school, the assistant principal, any school security employee, which we call our safety advocates. Those people are allowed according to Maryland law, Comar law 13A.08.0114. And any designee that the principal has designated, such as in a field trip, if something happens on a field trip or someone is accused of having something on a field trip and the principal or assistant principal is not there, they do have the responsibility of conducting a search. However, that search must be in the presence of a third party, never as a one-on-one search. So the search is a kind of a cursory search. We don't do any strip searches. We don't pull off any clothes. We don't do any of those things. It is really a cursory search. We do, in order to keep our schools safe, we do a couple times of the year, we call on our sheriff department or law enforcement to conduct a canine scan of our parking lots, so we know that, to see if there's anything that is being brought to school that may not necessarily make it in the building. Those searches also are conducted by the same individuals that I had named, although the scan will create what we call a reasonable suspicion. A school employee doesn't need probable cause as such as a law enforcement officer. They only need reasonable suspicion. So if there is an alert by a canine dog, that has been recognized as reasonable suspicion that something exists in that vehicle or in that car with, that shouldn't be there. Law enforcement, which I'll say LE's investigations has been covered by Sergeant Woodford, but I'll give a quick overview with it. They investigate crimes that occur on school property. And whenever possible, we ask that the arrest be made off of school property, that the arrest be made if possible. If there is a safety situation or if there is a violent situation, the arrest can take place on school property. We do ask them that the questioning of any suspects or any students that may be involved will be handled off of school property as well, unless there is a danger of safety. If there's a safety concern, then we have to take care of business and do what we have to do at that point. Or if there's the possibility of failure to question the student immediately but threaten the success of the investigation and again of safety. We must make sure that parents are informed if there's going to be a police investigation or if there's going to be a police interview, that parents are notified as soon as possible. Then there need to be a school official doing present when that questioning or interview is taking place, with the exception of if there is an accusation of child abuse or neglect, which is handled by the Department of Social Services, Child Protective Services. Any exchange of information or sharing information will have to be handled according to the protocols of the Family Educational Privacy Act, which is FERPA, which was mentioned by Sergeant Woodford. We also rely on our police officers, our law enforcement officers, both from the state police, from the sheriff's office and others, that if there is a crime in the community, some of those crimes that was shown by Sergeant Woodford, that involves any of our students that are currently enrolled in school, that we are notified. Because some of those crimes may cause us to have to make some changes in what the school day look like, or where students are enrolled, or what school they will be attending, or the dynamics of the crime may be so egregious that we may have to arrange an alternative learning environment for that student. And those crimes normally are the high-profile underlying crimes such as murder, arson. I know someone asked about weapons, carjacking, any type of crime that there was use of a firearm, sexual offenses, and other very serious underlying crimes. In fact, those crimes are listed as reportable offenses in the law under Title VII, Sections 303. We do Sergeant Woodford talked about Handle with Care. That is a wonderful program that started in West Virginia, where if a student was in the area where something happened the night before or the 24 hours before the student came to school, that we ask our law enforcement officers as well as first responders and anyone that may have been near that student to aware us that that student may experience some trauma or may have some behaviors the next day at school. They give us very minimal information, but we want to be aware or a heads up just in case the students start acting out or we start seeing behaviors that may not be normal for that student. We know that something happened in the last 24 hours that may cause the student to be behaving the way that it happens, and the way that they are behaving. That information is shared with our mental health professionals, our administrators, and those people who have responsibility of the student at the school the next day. I know that there was a lot of data that was shared by Ms. Lewis when she was here, so I won't go through all of that data, but if there's any data that is security related that is listed up here as far as attendance, threat assessments, risk assessments, arrest data, Title IX stuff, or bullying, that you all did not have already, please contact us and we will be sure that we get it to you. I just didn't want to be, repeat the same thing that you've already heard. And that's Larry Titus, Calvert County Public Schools. How can I help?
The one question and the one data point that we have not seen, which has been raised by committees before, is the question of arrest of students who might have special needs. Do we have any data on that, and if so, can that be provided to us? We've seen a racial breakdown, we've seen an age group breakdown, we've seen a gender breakdown. Do we have anything with regard to students with special needs?
I don't have that at my disposal, but I would sure research that, Mr. Jones, and get it to you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Titus, and maybe I misheard you. Did I hear earlier in your presentation an indication that you're coordinating with ICE?
Well, yeah, we have a plan that was sent down from the from the State Department that if ICE were to show up at and around schools, what protocols that need to be followed. So they would contact our office, and there are certain things that they told us that we should investigate before we give access to students, and that's sort of pretty much a checklist.
And so, can you speak a little bit about what that entails?
Well, we want to be sure that, first of all, that they have a warrant, that they have some type of document, that they're law enforcement that represents ICE, that they represent the federal government. We want to be sure that they do. We want to be sure that they that the parents are made aware, or the guardian is made aware that ICE is there. We want to be sure that we not give them access immediately to the student until all the required documentation is available. We want to investigate that. We want to be sure that we talk with legal counsel before we release the student, rather than just let someone come in and take a child and leave.
Understood.
I didn't bring the checklist with me, I'm sorry.
No, I certainly would, if that's something you can share with us, certainly I think it'd be interesting. The other question I had to do with, I believe I saw in your presentation that there is notification to parents before questioning of students by the school, is that correct?
As soon as possible.
Okay.
As soon as possible, if they're going to be questioned by law enforcement. Law enforcement really is not allowed to question students unless there is some safety issue, so we will notify the parent before we allow them, or as soon as it's practicable, before we allow them to.
And is that contact made when it's the school questioning? So if it's a safety advocate questioning students, is that notification done as well, or is that only for law enforcement encounters?
That should be made. It may not be made before, but it may be made sometime during the investigation that your student was talked to about a certain incident. And that may be a student, that may be a witness, that may be a student that may be involved, or that may be a student that is a victim, that has been a victim of some type of misbehavior.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me be clear about something, if I may. The school safety advocate
Yes, sir.
does not act with law enforcement power, correct?
That's correct.
So they are school employees who actually, as you call the Cadillac for Volkswagen, basically have a skill set that is driven by experience in public safety. But they cannot act as law enforcement.
That is correct. That is correct.
All right, so I think that's a clear public distinction that we need to make, because Sergeant Wolford shared with us that in fact the questioning can't take place on his behalf unless there's an attorney present, and 99% of the time, they will be told not to respond.
For suspects, correct.
Right.
We can interview witnesses and victims without an attorney present.
Good,
Yeah.
good. That's a good distinction to make. Now, the other thing that my colleague's question raised is this. If ICE does appear, would they not be also subject to the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act restrictions that are in place?
Depends on if they have a warrant. If they have a warrant, we have to adhere to that warrant.
Okay, so.
A warrant would supersede any.
Right, okay, so the warrant would supersede it, but if they don't have a warrant, then you would restrict them just as you would anyone else with your Family Educational Rights Privacy Act.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. And my understanding is that one of our neighboring counties is now sharing, I think you call this FERBA, data with law enforcement. Do we have any plans in the future to do that?
Give me a say, I don't think I'm following the question.
My understanding is that there is some data with the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act that schools are including some aspects of this in their MOU with law enforcement in the future, with the SROs. Is that something that we are considering?
We're researching that. We had a meeting recently with the state's attorney's office, the sheriff's office, and the superintendent. We're looking through what it is exactly that we might be able to share, given the arrangements that we have with the sheriff's office and the MOU. We're looking into that at this point.
That information would just be the basics. It would just be name, address, and emergency contact information. We're not looking for, whether the student gets free lunch or has a 504 or IEP. So that information will be redacted from the law enforcement. But that's what we're hoping to gain access to, but we have to follow all the laws and make sure we're doing our due diligence. So we have involved the state's attorney's office and the lawyers with the Board of Ed to make sure we don't cross any lines.
Okay.
And
Any
we
other
can't
questions?
take responsibility for what other counties do.
We understand that. I just, the key point in all of this is, and our job is to make recommendations relevant to any measure that may in fact enhance safety. And so the coordination is critical. That's why we had the three of you present today. And this has been rather informative, at least for me. And I'm sure for others as well. But in understanding how the system works, that's important. And this is going to be my last how the system works question. Sergeant Wolford, unless I've misheard, you referenced what amounts to an end-of-day report or some type of log that is shared.
So the sheriff's office and Maryland State Police both share their shift summaries with members of the Board of Education, and that would be outside of the school, what our patrol units are responding to, and it's just going to be a brief summary. It includes accidents, domestics, arrest.
Oh, okay. So that is not that's not what an SRO does.
No, that would be our patrol and just what's happening in our community.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. And Mr. Jones, of course, that is already occurring. Both of those departments do share what they call their daily briefing for each shift. They're sharing that, but it's restricted. It's not something that goes out to everyone. It only comes to our office.
Well, it certainly, at least in my mind, when young folks are involved in trauma-induced situations that have emotional impact upon their well-being and their behavior away from that scene, it's critical, I think, that the school know that. And so I'm glad to hear that.
I want to also add what the county has also done is they allowed us to have a radio, of a police radio, because sometimes when things are occurring close to a school, the police are engaged with that incident. They may not have time to call the school and say, hey, you might need to change the status of the school. So we monitor police actions that happen close to our schools or happen throughout the county so that we can respond or react to situations that may affect the safety of the school.
I do have a, go ahead.
Oh, you have another, go ahead. Mine's not a question, just thank you. I want to acknowledge, especially with Handle with Care, your implementation of that.
Yes.
Because having the buy-in of the sheriff's office and the school system, and I know we have other partners with that, but you two are the most critical. So I just wanted to say thank you, because not every county does it, but it does make a difference.
My question is, sometimes the violence, the conflicts that happen in schools start in communities where the students live. And I think Sergeant Hunt talked about building relationships with the community. What are some of the practices that go on that build those relationships?
We do a National Night Out, which is usually like a big hit. That's usually the first Tuesday in August, I believe.
August 5th.
That's what I was going to say. You
Yeah.
beat me to it. August 5th. So that is one of our big things, and I know the sheriff's office does this too. But we're like really engaged with like the students. We do they do like the criminal justice academy. We'll also jump in there and join and kind of talk with the students. Anytime there is an event, like we try to get out to those like communities, and I think we did touch a car. We do as much as we possibly can. So these families know like the police aren't here just to arrest, and especially with juveniles, we do a lot of trying to get resources to the family, to like the student as well. And it's not just about putting handcuffs or charging someone on this Form 53. It's about getting resources so they can better themselves.
And I also say we have several officers that are liaisons with HOAs and communities and go to either monthly or quarterly meetings to represent the sheriff's office and be there to answer any questions or address any needs. We just had one for Brooms Island the other day, and she sent out an email with some of the issues that they're seeing. So that's one of the other ways is that we're going to these community centers and HOA meetings as a member of law enforcement and passing that information on to the sheriff's office.
Thank you.
Sorry, okay. Thanks for your community events. As a sibling of a law enforcement, I have worn the McGruff suits at their events and been part of those. So, and had the joys of being part of some of those outings and events. So thank you guys for your community connects. This question is more towards Mr. Titus. Also, I represent support staff, but specifically to our alt-ed. I'm a support staff in our county alt-ed. And from those disciplinary hearings, right now, alt-ed is based off of whatever you guys agree upon in those disciplinary hearings. If you're coming for 45 days, if you're coming to alt-ed, is there talk about expanding our alt-ed? I don't know if any of you have been back there. We're 4 classrooms and a copy room. That's my office. And I am 8 months pregnant. We have a 60, almost 70-year-old full-time substitute and 3 other teachers back in that room. And obviously, kids need the discipline, but we often get kids who are of opposite, groups in the community. This year alone, I had to break up a fight while I was pregnant because of just the way our rooms work, just the way that our space works. So is there any talk about expanding our alt-ed program and it not just being involuntary? 'Cause some of these kids do need I love my program, true alternative education, and we are just not fully equipped to handle that right now. But are there any talks about expanding that? Because it does go to safety for our students and safety for our staff. I can't just watch a kid, get pummeled, pregnant or not. I protected myself too, I was okay. But I think about what we have right now and just some of the things that come back. And obviously, again, it's disciplinary. You guys make those decisions. And some stuff's just out of our hands. But just looking forward to the safety of our students and the well-being of our students. Is there any talk of expanding our program, getting us something different or helping us have more resources when we do have kids that are on the opposite sides of each other, because I mean, there's only so much we can do in a space that we have. So that is my loaded question.
That is my favorite. But I understand, I do understand the challenges that you all have, but as the hearing officer, I can only deal with the resources that we have now. I do believe that there is some conversation about expanding the alternative ed program, as well as looking at some other alternative learning situations for students. As you know, we do have some to do virtual.
Yeah.
Do virtual learning because it is difficult to maintain them in a learning environment. But that is above my pay grade. I do know there has been conversations and there have been visits to other alternative learning centers to see what that would look like for Calvert County.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll also say, depending on how many school resource officers we gain this summer, if I can stay in the position I'm at, I would like to put one at CTA that would also cover Calvert Country School. So they would mainly be at CTA, but that all determines on how many school resource officers we gain this summer, and also you know, the powers that be above me to go along with that. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Titus, I'm going to give you another one. It's above your pay grade, but I'll give you an opportunity here to just throw it out there in the room. So a couple of years ago, I headed up a letter writing campaign to ask for more SR or for more safety advocates at the middle school level. And I don't want to pat myself on the back too much, but I think going to full-time safety advocates was one of the better decisions we've ever made at the middle school level. This year, I asked that we consider putting those positions in all the elementary schools. The elected board decided to take those positions and make them behavior techs, which I'm in full support of adding behavior techs. My question for you, though, is if Dr. Townsend ever had a year where he didn't have to pinch the wallet so tightly, what would be a perfect world setup for those safety advocates? Would it be to add elementary? Would you want more at the middle? Would you want more at the high? Where do you think we see a need for safety advocates beyond what we have right now?
I think what I made a recommendation for a few years ago is what we call safety assistants for the elementary schools. They do not have to be retired police officers, which we have in the secondary schools. They could be people that have good life skills, that could talk to young people, that they could even be on a different pay grade, because I don't think the situations and the incidents that we see in elementary school, not yet, God forbid, don't meet those that we see in secondary school. So I think we could make it with something that's called security assistants. Those would be glorified, basically hall monitors that will mentor with students, talk with students, give them breaks when they might need to be removed from the classroom for a while before they can re-engage.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you for your presentation, for your time, for your thoughtfulness and what you've brought before us. This has certainly been helpful. I also want to thank you for allowing us to take up so much of your time away from here and away from this presentation in terms of trying to coordinate and get this together, because we felt very strongly that we needed to see the public safety end, just as we are hopeful that next month we will see the state's attorney and the courts and the juvenile services piece. So we're trying to coordinate these things and bring all the pieces together. Last month we had the health officer, and so trying to get a handle on all the elements of wellness for our young folks, and so that we can come forward with some appropriate recommendations. Before we dismiss this panel for the last time, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have now reached the public comment section of our agenda. As a reminder, speakers are limited to 2 minutes as an individual, or 5 minutes if you represent a designated group. Is there anyone who'd like to make a public comment?
We'll start online. If there's anybody joining us virtually who wish to leave public comment, please use the raise your hand function or press *9. One more opportunity for those online to leave public comment. If you wish to leave public comment, please press *9 or use the raise your hand function now. No one online, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone present? Thank you. That being the case, we have completed our task for the day. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move. I second.
Been probably moved and seconded. Any need for discussion? There being none, thank you. The meeting is adjourned.